Texas.
Born and raised about 3 hours from here, and where we were just talking about. Born in Midland, Texas in 1982, and left around 2000 to start college. And I'd never really moved back to Midland. I mean, I've gone back for extended periods of time, maybe a month or so, and but yeah, I've never actually had my own place there. I always lived with my parents or something like that, and I just kind of finished school, and I was a teacher for Austin Independent School District for a good 4 years. Realized I wasn't making enough money. Still having to bartend, Thursday, Friday, sometimes Saturday, just to make ends meet. And decided, after about 4 years of doing the teaching, it's like, well, I'm making more money bartending. It's a lot easier, and I don't have to deal with these kids. I think I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Got out of teaching, and I've really just been working in bars for, I guess, about 8-9 years now, maybe almost a decade, something around there. And so,
You live in Marfa?
I do live in Marfa, yes, sir.
Okay, what brought you to Marfa? Tell me about Marfa.
What brought me to Marfa was I don't know, I guess I was just kind of burnt out on Austin. It was getting kind of expensive. I was, had a debilitating, opioid habit, and I thought, I'd gotten clean, and I thought, maybe it's time to try something else. So I moved out to Marfa, where, there aren't any kind of things to really throw me off, a relapse and whatnot, and been out there for about 7 months now, and, it's a great place to, I guess, think, because it is so small, and you really have to come up with things on your own. I mean, there are certainly things to do. I'm just trying not to go out and get drunk every night. So a lot of the times I just stay with my cats and work on music. It's a perfect place for that, because no one comes by, no one knocks on my door and bothers me with that. It works. I do miss the bigger city. I do sometimes, I don't want to say regret my decision for what I did, but I do sometimes, just, I miss getting pizza delivered. I miss, just the ease of living in a big city, of, just everything that comes with a bigger city.
Tell me about, you mentioned the opioid thing, and the reason I'm following that a little bit is because I run into that as I travel.
Then that's how I got started as well. I guess it was my senior year of college. I broke this right ankle, had a root canal that I had to get as well, and I also got bit, actually right here on my backside, by a black widow. So this all happened within 5 to 6 months of each other, and this was, this had to be about 2004. So, anytime I had to go to the doctor or anything, they just, here you go, here's a script for, 10 milligram Vicodin, 10 hydrocodone. For the spider bite, I had to go to wound therapy, and they actually prescribed me. That was the first time I'd ever gotten prescribed Oxycontin. And just from there, I had a pharmacy basically in my bathroom. I just had refills and a ton of pills. And once I started running out, that was the first time I ever, because I'd never had an opiate withdrawal before that. I was maybe 22, 23, and I'd never experienced what a real withdrawal from a substance was like up until that period. And I went through it, and it was, it wasn't terrible. It was pretty bad, but it wasn't, the worst thing in the world. And I got over it, and I don't know what it was. A few years later, I had a friend introduce me to black tar heroin, and I started out smoking it, and just kind of putting it, we called it, basically doing it the punker way. You throw it on a piece of foil and basically freebase it, something like that. Call it beetle bum or something like that. And so I got started on it, doing it that way, and realized that opioids are a very, very powerful substance, and there is a possibility of giving up everything you've worked for just for that feeling. And I've never experienced anything really like that before. And it's funny because even getting clean, I'd end up relapsing 4 or 5 months later, and it's been an ongoing thing for about a decade, something like that. So.
Well, good for you. Congratulations.
Thanks. I mean, I mess up every once in a while. I'm not gonna lie. I do mess up every once in a while, and
Yeah.
you know, I mean.
Well, I
of
think.
course-
Well, I understand. I understand that, and it's. I think a lot of people don't understand that. Yeah, the difficulty of.
It's. I mean, it's very difficult because I mean, once you get on it, you know, for me, I wasn't trying to just get gnawed out and just get, for lack of better words, can I curse on this or is that all right?
Sure.
Yeah, I wasn't just trying to get fucked up. Like, I mean, it really, like, I remember when I first started getting into heroin, it made me want to go out and do things. It, like, kind of broke that barrier of me being a shy person and just really, I mean, I guess not giving a shit, like, in the early stages, I had a great time. I went out, I met a lot of people, I had a really great time, and, you don't realize you really have a problem until the guy you're getting it from or the person you're getting it from no longer answers the phone, and then you up shit's creek, you run out and you're going through withdrawal. And that seems like to be when I always got caught by my family or friends or something like that. It was never when I was on it. It was always when I would run out or go through that, and they'd always, well, what's wrong? Like, why? Like, that's really how I'd always end up getting caught, was just running out, going through withdrawal. It's like, well, why do you have something? Why are you throwing up? Why are you doing this? And I'd have to come clean because I, feel like death. I mean, it's one of the worst feelings you'll ever experience. Running out of that stuff and just going a day or two without it is. It subsides after about 4 days, but I mean, even after the physicality of it goes away, you still have that whole just mental thing. Nothing seems fun anymore. I mean, when you first are getting clean, that's the hardest part. Is nothing's fun. You can't find any joy in life. Like, even like things that you used to be interested in, they're just no longer fun without it any longer. And it took. I had to actually end up getting on a maintenance program and be off of it completely for about 2 years before I was able to. I mean, it didn't take the whole 2 years, but it took a good 6, 7, 8 months before I was able to really acclimate back into being what I considered a regular person without it. I couldn't go out to bars any longer because I had so many just memories of going into the bathroom and be able to get high real quick and come back out and everything's fine. And that was a hard transition. I can still when I go home and go to bathrooms and places I used to frequent a lot, it still brings back memories of getting high in that bathroom. I don't know if that's ever anything I'll ever actually get over. I don't know. It's been only a few years, so.
Sounds like something you're going to just carry with you.
No, I think
have to kind of work with. Always.
I think it will be something I have to carry with me.
Yeah.
And like I say, I'm at a point now where I do feel bad when I go and get it. When I go home sometimes and I go get it and spend a day or two on it, and I feel guilty about it, but it's.
Yeah. Tell me something about. Talk to me about Texas a little bit. And that's kind of why I'm here. The reason I'm doing this project is because I realize how divided we are as a country.
Yeah.
We don't talk to each other. We got us against them. And everything's politicized. I mean,
yeah, it's very polarized nowadays.
To an extreme today, almost.
To a very, very, very high extreme.
What do you think about that?
I think it's always kind of been like that. I just think people are more vocal about it now. But I think there's always been dissenting opinions that are just as prevalent now as they were, I don't know, say 20, 30 years ago. I just think people have more ambition to talk about the way they feel, and I don't think there's really a need to compromise anymore. I mean, there is obviously a need to compromise. I just think people are more so unwilling to do it nowadays. Like, if I believe this is right, this is what I want, this is what I think, and there's not a damn thing you can tell me to make me feel any different. And I think Texas is going through that a lot too. I mean, if you just look at the last election, I mean, it's obviously divided too, because just in that Senate race we just had, it was pretty split. I mean, it was less than 2% that the incumbent took to keep his seat in the Senate. I mean, he was definitely on the ropes, and for something like Texas to almost elect a Democrat to the Senate, in my lifetime that's that's crazy. That's really crazy. So you do kind of see a split, but and I see it a lot, especially with bartending. That's kind of why I've always liked bartending. Is you're kind of like you're almost like the judge or the referee. I mean, you don't really get to give your opinion of what it is. I mean, certainly sometimes some very conservative people will irritate me and push me to a point where I do start to, give my opinion. And I mean, I shouldn't say conservative people. Sometimes there's some very far left people that will do the same thing. But I don't know. I guess I've seen so many fights. I mean, I especially remember the 2016 election. There was just, we'd have to throw people out because they would get so heated between one another. And it's just like, well, the thing hadn't even finished yet. You don't even know how it's going to finish. And it seems like you already know the way the next 4 years are going to be. And sadly enough, the people I thought that were crazy were actually right. Like, that's kind of a strange thing, too. If you would ask me in summer 2016 if I thought Donald Trump would be president, I've just been like, there's no way. I mean, it's going to definitely be Hillary Clinton, which is, I'm not really for either, but I mean, at least it's, I guess it's the thing I argue with my brother, who is pretty pro-Trump. It's just, he always asks me, what's the big problem with him? And the way I feel is, I just don't like the way he presents himself. I don't like the way he speaks. I don't know. It's just, he seems, and it's just from meeting people from Europe. I mean, he's embarrassing. It's kind of embarrassing. Like, so your whole thing with the American Mosaic, I mean, it's kind of embarrassing, really, to call yourself an American, like, especially when you travel. Like, I mean, it's just, people think we're dumb, and that kind of sucks. That really sucks nowadays. Like, when I was in college, and especially after college, when I went to Europe, I didn't really feel that way. I mean, I've always told people, this is one thing I always said, though, I guess getting back to Texas, is when someone asked me, like, say when I was in Paris or when I was in Berlin, when people asked me where I was from, I'd always say Texas rather than the United States. I'd always say I'm from Texas. I wouldn't say I'm an American. I'd say I'm a Texan. So, and I think a lot of Texans do that. I think a lot of Texans kind of, I don't want to say different than, others in the United States, but I think we definitely, I mean, you don't hear a lot of people saying, oh, for you, for example, I'm from Washington State. Like, you don't really, recognize yourself as being a Washingtonian, I guess is what they would call it. But people from Texas definitely, when they're telling someone where they're from, they always are going to say Texas. It's not the United States. I'm from Texas. I mean, certainly you are from the United States. Texas is one of the states in the United States, but it's always been kind of funny to me that Texans kind of hold that heritage, really close to them. And like, I mean, I don't think I don't purposely do that. It's just, I found that, especially overseas, I've got a better reception from locals by telling them I'm from Texas rather than telling them I'm from America. It's like its own country in itself, and that's kind of what's. I mean, I've loved Texas a few times, and I love Texas. I think it's a great spot. It's different. I mean, because like you said, you can be in West Texas somewhere like here that's mountainous, and you drive a few hours, and you've got the desert. I mean, just flat as the eye can see, and then kind of travel more towards the center of the state. You've got the hill country, and you've got more of, I guess, kind of a liberal agenda going on. And I mean, Austin's just a strange place. Like, it's just weird that it just pops out of the middle of nowhere, in this kind of very, very conservative, landscape. You just got this place where, we had a homeless person who had a boob job and was running around in a little Speedo, and actually ran for mayor of the city. I mean, didn't get very far, but tried to run for mayor, and I don't know, you don't see that in Oklahoma. So,
what do you think about the future? I mean, are we going this track we seem to be going on? Are we on a kind of a collision course with something, or what?
I mean, I don't know if I'd call it a collision course, but I mean, I definitely think. I don't think the strife is going to end anytime soon. I don't see people coming together anytime soon. But I really don't know. I mean, your guess is as good as mine with that. I really don't know what the future holds. And I guess, like, that's something different than I would have thought in college. I would have thought like we were going more towards social progress, and even 10 years ago I would have thought we were going more towards social equality. But now I don't really know. I don't know if really the atrocities that are really happening, like in this administration, are gonna. I don't know that it's gonna stop in 4 years. I don't, or 2 years from now. Actually, I don't think it is. I think a lot of people are angry about something, and I think, like you talked about, the whole, bringing this whole division between people. I think it is helping, certain people, and I think this administration, it definitely helps. They want people fired up, and, like we were just in Texas, like how it is. I mean, you go to Midland, you say anything negative about Donald Trump, you're liable to get punched in the face. And I can remember going there when Obama was president, and seeing signs like keep the change on the people's bumper stickers and things like that. And I don't know, I guess that just shocks me that people still feel this way, like towards other people, that the transgender people are still going to be not allowed to go use a certain bathroom, and even some voting things that are being brought up where they're just making it hard for certain people of color or of a different nationality to vote. And so I think it's obviously still just as prominent as it ever has been. I don't think it's going to go away. So I guess to answer your question, I think things are going to get worse before they get better.
So, you optimistic about the future?
I'm optimistic about my future. I don't know about the future of the world, but I'm optimistic about my future, because what else do I have?